Um, so the topic of the day, this is one I got to tell you, I'm going to be taking notes on this one because we're going to be delving into building strong creative habits. And man, when I was a young buck, I wrote and wrote and wrote. I was always producing all the time, nonstop. Um, Now that I'm getting back into creating, producing work again, I've found that I have a lot of really bad habits, and it's difficult to get back in the swing and form those good habits. So I'd love to hear from someone like Sim, Russ. You guys are obviously highly productive creators. I'd love to hear your thoughts on what your habits are. Do you have set daily routines?
We're
Um,
we're insane and we drive everybody around us crazy.
Mm.
If that makes is that the same for you, Russ?
Yeah, it's close. Yeah, yeah. My wife just like shuts the door and leaves me in here to
Yeah,
rot,
pretty much.
bounce off the walls.
yeah. So is there I mean, do you have like the one major piece of advice that you would give somebody to to be more productive?
Um, to be more productive. Well, there's lots of little things that go together. I think you should be able to get up and walk away from the board. You should be. You need to give your mind space.
Yes.
Um, you need to exercise. Uh,
Mhm.
you do because you need to. In order to get your mind to work properly, your body needs to be working properly as well.
That's really I was definitely going to bring that up. I didn't expect it to come up so early in this discussion. I'm
And,
glad you did that because
and
man, it's I am not doing that myself, and I know it has
Mm.
a major impact on my
y-
energy levels,
Yeah,
my creativity for sure.
it's one of
yeah.
the reasons why people notice it goes, dude, what does music play in your inspiration? I'm like, it plays in my stimulation. You
Mm.
need to find also like a way to stimulate yourself.
Yeah.
Like if it's not if
Oh,
I'm not
tell us
listening to
more.
music, if I'm not listening to music, I'm watching like movies or anime, like stuff that moves with a lot of camera play. It's like I like to watch those AMVs with
Mm.
anime, right? Because movement stuff like that, like or those musical video with movies like Boyka, where you see all those big fights, MMA fights, where you see the move, the muscle tones, stuff like that. It's like keeping like an updated bank file in your mind.
Mm.
So that's why I don't need reference when I draw.
Yeah. It's
Like I can,
observation.
yeah.
Observation is key, um,
And
and
it's like
keeping
training,
stimulated. Yeah.
and it's a bit like training. Like every day, like I wake up, my morning coffee, sit down at the table. And it's technically a routine, but you need to be spontaneous about it, because if it becomes all a routine, you lose the inspiration, right? It
Mm,
becomes like it shows in your art. And to
okay.
to kind of keep that spontaneous, right? That's why I always have like four things I'm working on at the same time, you could say. Like I always have like the project
Mm,
that's on the table plus the ones that are upcoming in a way. So I have like
Mm.
a print, a fan art, a next book. Sometimes I have it to dabble on it, because, uh, like Russ said, like sometimes you need to take a step back and step away from the table, right? And when you're just working on a project, on one project, then you take a step back, you come back. But when I'm doing this, instead of doing that, I'm just going on another project. So it just changes the entire thing in my mind.
Mm. Change is
that's
as
a
And
good as the
yeah,
rest.
that's a really good
exactly.
piece of advice.
And
I think
sometimes you get stuck on something, and it's the
yeah.
expression that we're saying is like, I can't fucking hit it. Like for some kind of reason you can't hit. And like I drew that hand 25 times before. I just can't freaking hit it right now. Or the hair. You're like, ah. Instead of frustrating and going on it, I'm like, you know what? Let's take a step back. So I go to like, oh, let's go work on something else for a few minutes. I hit that one up,
Yeah.
and then I go back to it, and I'm like, I hit it like a motherfucker in one shot, and I'm like, yeah,
Nice.
productivity is to keep the flow going. It's like saying like, you're not feeling right to cut that freaking piece of board. Well, go put some nails, and maybe that's what you're good in right now. Type of it, just to give a comparison, right? So you're getting flustered on one piece, you're not seeing straight. So move to just go to another one. Sometimes just for 5 seconds, dude. Then you come
Yeah.
back, you see clearly. Like it's same thing with a background. Sometimes you'll have you're working on the scene. You're trying to line up your background. Like you're like, nah, and the more you're gonna try and hard, you're not gonna get it. Go back, come back, take a fresh look at it, and then you see it. You're like, oh,
Nice, man. That's really cool. I think right now that
Play
is
with
one
you-
of
play
the
with it.
problems I'm having is I'm hyper focused on one thing. I'm having some things I just can't quite work through and put together. If I had that other project or other outlet that I could just jump to clear my head, I think that would be a huge help.
it's like like you say, like you remember when we make joke of palate cleanser? That's what it is.
Yeah,
It's like doing the
palate
same
cleanser.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Like
Speaking to
ima-
the physical exercise, I mean, do you guys, do you have like, do you take X amount of time every day, or at least certain days of the week where
Yeah,
like this is where I'm going to get my physical exercise, or you just try to fit it in wherever?
I was
15, 30
before the lockdown. I was doing 2 sessions of karate a week, going walking, and then when the lockdown came, I was only doing the 1 session, but I was doing a 15-minute workout every day for 5 days a week, and
Nice.
walking as well. So it's just what you got to do is you've got to try and build it into your day so that it doesn't take too much time out of your day. It doesn't have to be a lot, just to get
Right.
you moving, get you working, and then you add that into what Sim is saying as well, being able to walk away from something, or focus your attention in different places, and it means that you've got this flow and you've got this healthy sort of balance.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah.
Is there a point where like working too many hours, like working on your stuff too many hours a day actually becomes counterproductive?
It is for me. I'm getting old.
I know that doesn't apply to Sim. Like if he's
No,
awake,
he's just-
if he's
he's
awake,
working,
he's drawing.
isn't he?
Like it's doesn't.
I don't know. My wife set me up where I'm going to be in slavery anyway, or in jail.
Me,
Oh, yeah.
me, I'll be honest and frank. Let's be honest here. I've been working a lot, and lately, like I've been neglecting my my training. You could say, because I used to do some stretches. Still do squats. I had a chin up bar. I have weights, right? But since the quarantine and all this, I've been very fucking like neglectful in that part.
Right.
But I do have 6 people in the goddamn house at all time.
Right. Yeah, that's tough.
That's tough.
Well,
So,
that brings up a.
But
that brings up,
working a lot, you do need to try and balance and not keep, because the thing is, it gets very type of like obsessive in a way, right?
Sure.
It's like you become a workaholic. That's what we are. Technically, that's what we are, because
Yeah.
we relax, we chill, we want to do anything. We're watching a goddamn movie and we're still doodling. So we're technically workaholics, right? But
Right.
one of the things I like to keep in mind is, never forget, at least once keep in your mind always, at least one moment where you go spend some time with your girlfriend, spend some time with your family, because that's the people, that's the things you neglect when you're getting very narrow-minded into just working. You get into those training, that 10,000 hours, you want to work. Nothing's wrong with crunching. But sometimes I have to stop, and sometimes my bro comes, "Hey, dude, you haven't spent time with the kids that much in the last week or 2. I'm like, okay, so
Yeah.
it's movie time.
Yeah. I mean. Yeah, I think that's there's always, if you're a creator, especially something like comics, there's the hundreds of hours a comic artist has to put in to produce a single book. It's insane, and you can always use the excuse like, I just need to get this done. There's always going to be that thing.
Yep.
There's always going to be that next page you got to do, that next panel, that extra gig you got that you need to do. You can use that as an excuse indefinitely.
And
But if you don't take that time, that personal time, for whether it's exercise, whether it's just enjoying something else, or especially the people in your lives, it will become destructive, and your creativity will hurt because of it.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to get to. That's another thing I'd like to add. It's the fact that you need to take a day off. Like you can do crunches, right? But a day off doesn't mean not touching your pen, but it means taking a day off, meaning get that stress off that you have to work, type of thing. If it's not at least once a week, like you can skip one, right? But I'm just saying, like it's important to take that break. It really is.
Yeah, I do a Saturday, so I don't do anything on a Saturday. I stay away from it completely, unless there's an emergency. But
Right.
other than that, when I say emergency, there's never an emergency in comic books. But obviously freelance work and all the rest of it. But other than that, I take Saturday off, and
Nice.
the rest of the week.
How long is this something you've been doing for a long time, or is this?
Yeah, because my wife was working on a Sunday, so I work Sundays.
Right.
So I just take Saturday off, and that's the day. Stay away from everything else, and then the rest of the week is, I work from home like most of us, so I get to see everybody quite a lot.
Yeah.
And I'll work into the evening, so I'll have some dinner, and then I'll work afterwards. But then, if you get to go out twice a week to go karate, or training, or whatever it is, you're not working at those moments. I think that's the best time to really release, because when I go training, it's very zen. You're in the moment. You're thinking about technique. You're thinking about power. You're thinking about your fitness. You're never thinking about anything else. It completely removes you from your life. You're just focusing on the training.
When I was younger, I would have, like at the top of the list for creating good habits creatively, I would have put other things well above. But I'm starting to think that having that physicality, doing the physical exercise, taking 15 to 30 minutes, and that's just your time to just fully be in that moment, to get your heart rate up, to get the physicality going. I think that might be number one. If you're not doing that, it will ultimately, it's going to kill you, first of all, and it will ultimately, your work will suffer,
It's just what Sim was saying, is that by having this balance, and by being able to, either move to something else or move away from it, or take those moments, it means that you refresh your creativity. If you're just doing the same thing and you keep going and keep going and keep going, then eventually you run out of steam.
Yeah.
And your creativity runs out of steam. It's not just physically.
You have to keep yourself inspired.
Yeah.
And another thing I'd like to add up to it is one of the things that Jack Kirby brought up in many interviews, right? And I'm sure Ross will agree with me on this. We get so much work into our work that there's certain things that becomes like we have to rely on others, Meaning like Kirby couldn't draw at a certain point because he would be driving and he would still be thinking about composition, story, and this. And I'm the same. Like I'm walking in the street, right? And people are like, you look like you have like the poker face, like the resting bitch face. You're just walking, you're like you're gonna kill somebody, like you look like you're gonna kill someone, and all I have though is I'm walking and I'm thinking about story, everything I am, dude. I'm going to to the pharmacy to buy something. I'm thinking about story, this. It's always in my goddamn head, and it's pretty much all we talk about. Yeah, it's always in there. You're watching a goddamn movie, and you're analyzing how they're telling the story. So people watching the movie, which you want to kill the fuck out of you, because you're like, I wouldn't do this like that.
My wife will catch me occasionally because I people watch as well, because of anatomy and motion. So I'll be sitting there and she'll say, "What are you looking at?" So I was looking at your nose and your lips and seeing the way that they work together. And, and it's like, it's not a romantic thing. I'm just literally looking at the way you're built, So you do this. You're constantly things are constantly
studying
moving
movement when somebody's walking, when you're walking out. Like, dude, one of the funniest thing was like, we have the best excuse to what you looking at? I'm looking at her. Why? I'm studying how she's moving for a drawing.
Yeah,
we have the best fucking excuse. It's a study.
Right. Got it. That you just gave me the inspiration I needed to really sit down and start drawing every day. Like,
Right?
that's awesome. I hadn't thought about that.
It's a free stare card.
Oh,
To some wives, other wives are just still dumb bitches.
woo! So I think you touched on this a little, Sim, but like you were saying, maybe mix it up a little, not just have a completely rigid routine because it can kind of maybe I don't know, get a little static or sterile after a while. Is that do all of you kind of feel that way? What do you think about that, Russ? Do you have like a set? These are my hours that I'm going to do this, or do you kind of shift around from day to day?
Yeah, I kind of am like that. I kind of drive myself to do a certain amount of time to do certain things. I try to stay within a loose routine, but yeah, you do have to change things up. You don't want to get too stale.
Right.
So it's like there are things I need to do during the day. I know I need to do them, but I don't have to do them at the same time every day. So you don't get too anal about it. But there are certain targets I need to hit, and I hit them, and that's the end of it. And so I come at it a bit workmanlike from that perspective.
Yeah.
And maybe that makes me not quite as creative. I don't know, but it's the way that I make it happen. So
Yeah. I mean, I think there's certainly with all of these things, it's certainly it's got to be individualized. There are
that's what I was
things that
gonna
might
say.
work for one person and not another.
Nobody's
exactly.
nobody's the same. So some people
No.
are more technical. Some people are more like
Yeah.
inspirational. I don't know. I'm trying to look for that.
Experimental.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's that as well. Yeah. I'm probably not very experimental, to be honest.
Me is I've realized that if you try to control stuff too much, usually you ruin it, right? Like
Sure.
it's with anything. If you put too much control, it's the same thing in your relationship. You try to be too controlling on somebody, you just ruin it. It's anything, right? It's same thing with art. If you try to lock it up in one box, you can do something. You can be productive, but it's like saying you're not riding that wave, though. You know what I mean? When that wave
Yeah.
shows up, that's the thing
Oh,
that we
right.
can never forget is like we can always be productive. There's some moments where we're not. Like I'm sure Ross will agree with me on that too. There's a day that sometimes you just like, why can't I just fucking draw today? I don't know. Like, for a few hours you're like, I can't fucking draw today.
Yeah.
Where the
There
shit
are
are-
mornings like that where you just go, "This is not happening."
Yeah.
I try and force my way through it, but it's
Mm-hmm.
as a professional illustrator or as a freelance designer, you know what this is like. Or you all know what this is like. Sometimes you just got to put your shit in. You just got to get it done,
Right.
And it's not
Yeah.
always the best page. It's not always your best work, but it's done and it's paid for. So that's the difference.
the technical way of like doing illustration, right? You know what you have to do and you're gonna apply it. But what we're talking is that inspiration moment, though. When you want to get that, you want to get that moment where you're in that zone and you're getting those flow and those this, and you're like, you want that wave, and it's like one of the things that when you're having a day job and you're having like, or you're in school, right? You're like, okay, I have to go to bed, but you're in that moment, you just freaking hit that wave, right? Dude, there's moments where like I'm tired and I'm okay, I'm gonna go to bed. And then for some kind of reason, I just hit that wave, and I'm like, oh, I look at that, okay, and then I'm gone for another 6 hours. Oops, it's 10 in the morning.
So
I can't do that anymore.
I really like that you hit on like finding this zone thing, and it's this is something that happens for athletes, it happens for artists. What I remember playing, I was not a very good football player. I wasn't a great football player, but there was one game where I experienced it. I didn't really know what people were talking about, but I dropped into a zone, and it's like I don't even have much memory of what happened during that time, but it was like the best I'd ever played in my life, and it just I don't even know what triggered it. Do you guys have any advice on like are there ways to try and get to that place, or is it just it could just happen at any time?
Uh,
Practice.
Sometimes I think it's if you analyze what happens around the moment, you know, it's like sometimes it's a song, sometimes it's a certain feeling, you know, like when you're watching that movie and you see that fucking brohood type of thing happen and you get that fucking chug down that throat and you're like, yeah, right?
Right.
You know those you know that there's certain elements that trigger certain effects, right? So me, I know that sometimes when I'm watching an anime with a fucking good actions fight, or I'm watching like Boyka beating the shit out of a giant motherfucker that's like 7 feet tall, right? Inspires me. Like when I was watching, I know that type of thing always made me go like, oh yeah, fuck yes, right?
Okay.
And
So for you, it feels like you like having some kind. You love the stimulation, whether it's music, something you're watching. It seems
inspiration
like
comes
that
from
really drives you.
all inspiration comes from a stimuli if you think about it. If it's not a moment in the day, if it's not a memory for somebody, if it's not a moment of your life or a story you read or music or a movie you've seen, like everything comes from anything that happens emotion or anything is came from a stimulant. That's the core of it. So what what lights you up? What inspires you? Figure that out.
Right.
What else are those things that gets you inspired that you makes you go like, okay, dude, I'm ready to fucking take the world now. Let's do this.
Nice. Okay. Yeah. What about you, Russ? Do you find yourself dropping into these zones?
Yeah, I think it's kind of lucid in and out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wish that, like El Gago was saying, practice, and he's right. It's
Right.
all about the repetition. I
Hmm.
don't know that I
Okay.
can
Okay.
necessarily turn it on, but by being at the desk and getting myself involved and being in that zone, as it were,
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
it can come about. Yeah, you can
You know,
kind of
how about
Okay.
get it to happen.
how about we say it that way? The illustrator part is a technique, right? And that can
Mm,
be turned on the man, being an illustrator,
yeah,
right? But the artist, the creative artist part,
yeah.
that's the one there's no automatic switch to it.
No, that's the zone. That's the one
Yeah,
where it
that's
comes in and out. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I think, I'm going to stick with this analogy in terms of being an athlete, but it's like, and this goes to what Gargoyle was saying about practice. It's you have to do something, get to the point where it's just pure instinct,
Oh,
where it's just in you. You know what to
yeah.
do. So when the moment strikes, when that thing hits, it's almost like your brain just kind of goes
Well,
quiet and your instincts, what you
It,
know to do, what you've trained yourself to do, just
it's
takes
like
over. It
it's
just
like
takes
that with
over.
martial arts. It's like that with martial arts. You train
Yeah.
and train and train and train and train. You don't walk down like when we
And
do
then it's
basics
reflective. Yeah.
and we do punching and blocking. You don't walk down the street doing that. If
No.
somebody came up to you in a bar and said, "Are you looking at my pint?" and started a
Right.
fight, you wouldn't like go down into.
Yeah. And you don't actually
know?
fight you don't really fight using a kata,
No,
no, neither.
no, exactly. But the things that you've done,
Yeah.
time and time and
The
time and time
conditioning.
again,
Yeah.
means that your body will go to a position that will work. And
Yeah.
I suppose it's exactly the same for drawing, exactly the same for creating.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
you
yeah.
get yourself in that zone, and because
Yeah.
you've done it again and again and again and again, you can
And
get yourself into that zone that much easier.
I think one of the best way to describe the feel of that zone, it's that song that you like a lot, like that rock or metal song that you really fucking like, right? You'll listen to it, but there's moments where you're so goddamn into it that you're like shaking your freaking head and you're like, yeah, yeah, and you're in the band. That's pretty
Yeah.
much it. That's the feeling you get when you're. That's what
Yeah.
the zone feels like. It's like for the moment you're like you hit that song, you're like, yeah, and your head banging, you're in it, like if you're there, yeah.
Very
And
Joe-
you're
cool.
playing your hair, you're playing the hair
Wrong.
guitar, you're like, yeah.
Joe's
Yeah,
got
that's
it right.
Hmm?
Like with what Joe's saying there, I like that.
This is how often can we can be in the zone correlates to how much time we're practicing good habits. Yes, the
Mm.
more time spent on good habits, the more often we get in the zone, and the longer we can stay in it. It hadn't really occurred to me coming into this topic, this show, but this getting in the zone thing, I think it's so crucial, and it really, I think it frames just how important it is to put in those hours to get to practice, practice, practice. Because if you don't get to a place, if you're trying to draw something and you have to stop your creativity or creative flow because you have to think about, well, how do I do this perspective or how do I do
Yeah.
this particular thing? It's going to pop you out of that zone. But
Yeah.
if you just know it, you practiced it so many times,
Yeah.
that zone is going to be able to just come into place, and it's going to happen, and it's going to flow. And I
And
think this is really essential to this.
and R&D,
Yeah.
research and development, all the
Right.
fucking time. R&D is fucking good. Like, never forget that, research. Just fucking start researching it. You'll never know what you'll find and why might inspire you in something different. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
inspire, like, look into artists. That's why I'm trying to do all that Midday World thing, showing in European artists going into all type of stuff like that, because I think that you never know what you're gonna find out. Like, you're gonna fall and discover like you're somebody that you're like, where have you been all my life?
I'm right here, guys. I'm right here.
Vinny.
Hey.
Good timing, man. How you doing?
Pretty good, man. Yeah, I just came in a few minutes ago and I saw that you were going live or you've been live, so let me jump on.
Very nice. Yeah, we're talking about creating strong habits in terms of creative output, producing. I'm sure you have some thoughts on that.
Yeah, man. I produce a lot.
Yeah, you are one of the most productive creators in CG for sure.
Yeah, man. I try to be, and that's the thing, man. It's getting the work done is key. You got to have a clear mind. That's first and foremost. That's why I stay out of everyone's back channel bullshit, because I don't have headspace for all those games and bullshit that everybody likes to play. Can't stand it. Never liked it. Always hated it. It's a waste of time. Colossal waste of time. If you want to stay creative, you gotta keep your fucking self happy, positive. And it's tough, especially now with COVID and all this other nonsense we've been dealing with. Everyone's trapped inside. But most artists, I mean, this is kind of our life anyway. Like we're in front of the drawing table, the computers. We're working our asses off. But you got to try to exercise, keep healthy and fit, because that's going to help your mind as well right off the bat.
Yeah, that was we hit on it really early in the discussion, and like we've kind of.
Oh.
It's really at the top, toward the top of the list, as we were talking about, like just how important it is to get that physical exercise in,
How important it is, and how
it's
been one of the main things that's been neglected with the entire COVID thing, because everybody's locked down,
and I think it's always been an issue for comic book creators in general. It's that kind of chain yourself to the drawing table mentality. It can be really destructive,
Yeah, that's for sure, man. Yes, other areas of your life are going to be affected by work. I mean, I don't care if you're an artist or if you're laying bricks. You need to find a balance. It's that simple, man. And try to keep yourself motivated and inspired. If there's artists and movies and games and stuff that you enjoy, take a little bit of time, do that.
Remember what got you into it in the first place.
Right.
What inspired you to be what you are. What inspired you in the first place to become an artist, to do comics. So when you have a bump, that's why I keep saying I went back to watching anime. I go back to watching movies. I just go like all out in what I used to watch, and go back to what inspired me in the first place. And
of course, man. It's when I was working with Todd McFarlane. That's one of the things that I learned from him. He always kept that childlike sensibility when it came to creating, when it came to what he's doing. Because like when we were working on figures and stuff, it's like the first thing is like, would a kid like this? We try to break it down. Is this something that's fun for them? Because if it's not, if it's too static, too boring, that's why he was always against like doing any characters in just like in a business suit. Even though everyone loved like the villains, like he had that Jason. What's his name?
Jason Wynn.
Was that his name? The villain in the Spawn books.
Jason Wynn.
Jason Wynn.
Jason Wynn. Oh, Jason Wynn. Yeah, that's it. Thanks, Elgardo. Like he was kind of against that for a long time, so he did like an exclusive form because he didn't think kids would buy that in a store. And to a degree, he's right. He's right with a lot of things, but you got to keep that childlike sensibility in your work of at least your teenage self. Try to make your teenage self happy with certain things, but use your adult mind to make sure that you're going to tell a proper story. Things are cohesive, that, they can't be too much of a mess. They can't be too much all over the place. Get structure. Yeah,
Right.
action things are cool. Yeah, certain things are cool, but find a place for them. That's key. And
Yeah.
when you start getting into your groove, you're gonna keep moving quickly, and better stuff's gonna come out.
And another thing that I like to do is, and I give as advice for writers and artists, right? It's every time I have a project, research and dev, right? You start researching on the subject you're working on, right? But a thing that I love to do, and if you go on my YouTube, you'll find them. I have playlists for every project that I work. I have a soundtrack for all
Nice.
of them. Like
Nice.
if I'm working on, like right now, like I was working on a project, right? Let's say Rod, you come to me for a story, right? And you go, I have this, so I'm gonna start and research themes, right? And then I'm like, okay, so I'll go on YouTube and go research those themes with music, and
Yeah.
find what inspires me in there, what I like, and then build a playlist around what the entire vibe of the book is supposed to be, and that's what I listen to when I work on it.
Nice.
That's cool.
Yeah, and I think Samir mentioned this. He really likes just kind of pure soundtracks without the vocals, without the word. As a writer,
Scores,
in my youth, I was just like Sim. I wanted music. I didn't work without music constantly. As I got older, I found that having lyrics, having those words like constantly being pumped into my head, it really started getting in the way. So I have transitioned to music
And-
without lyrics, and you just got to find what
Yeah.
works for
And
you.
another
Well,
thing another thing I discovered with the CG thing, when you're working in the industry, right? You get to do working in team, but you're all divided, right? It's not the same thing as what I'm about to say. It's one of the things that I've discovered that's been happening with CG with some creators. It's sometimes we do a hangout, like either in the hangout or a Discord, and it's just 4 artists, and we're just working on stuff and exchanging advice. Going, hey, what do you think about this? Oh, I do it like that. Oh, what about, look at this, guys? Or, oh, I look. This is how I do this. Oh, and dude, we leveled up so much just by going like, hey, look at this. This is how I do this and this and this. Oh, I would do that. Maybe if you did this. And that's
Right.
dude, the interaction at this level is like, it's not just the interaction between creator, right, and the fans. That's amazing. The fact that right now there's an interaction that's immediate, right, to what you do, to what how you interact with them. It's like a live convention 24/7.
Yeah.
But there's the same thing between us creators. We have access to each other.
That's a really good point.
We get
Yeah.
to be friends. We get to meet up in a place and get to work like it's a virtual studio.
But it also depends on the creators as well. Because sometimes I'm cool like that. Other times I need to be alone to focus on what I'm working.
Yeah. Me too. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, no, that's why I really enjoy like what Scotsman does on the Sundays, because that's a good place for it. That way everybody kind of learns. It's not just the other artists and stuff.
What you've got is a virtual bullpen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
like I was mentioning it last night, that was what I wanted to do when I was younger. I wanted to be in the bullpen. I wanted to be with Uncle Stan. I wanted to be there with all the other artists. And I found over time that thing didn't exist anymore. That those publishers weren't really there. That was not a world.
Yeah.
But this world does exist.
Yeah.
And it's here in the
Yeah.
indie world now.
Yeah.
And because of the technologies we have, we're all kind of we're all bumping off each other. It's
That's
brilliant.
so cool, man.
And
yeah.
it's what me, Beacon, and Scottman and a few others do on the Discord. There, we just freaking watch it. Like we stream a movie and we just freaking draw on share screen.
Yeah. So I found the bullpen, but I didn't find it at Marvel. I didn't find it at DC.
Right.
I found
in
it here.
CG.
When I had one of my first interviews with at Marvel, I saw how different it was from having talked to some of like the older guys who actually were in the bullpen and all that. It was like night and day. You could see how it got poisoned, and I saw this around 2002, right around there. That's when I really saw how it was personally myself. Like you could get vibes of it through some of the books, but you could really see how poisoned it was getting. So yeah, the best way of doing that, is kind of what we've been doing. And I think the streams, I chalk the streams up for that. Because we get to not only just talk about each other's projects and stuff, but it's also, kind of what's going on in the art community. Other topics that we have, fucking around, just, having a good time. But we're doing it with the fans, which I think is even more important, because it's like the bullpen mixed with the letters column all at the same time.
and the fans, they get to meet the real us. Like, it got me thinking. It's like I was having a conversation not too long ago with Vinny, and remember when we were talking about my meeting with Mobius, that I never knew who he was till he was gone.
Yeah.
But you made a good point when you said, but you got to meet the real you, not the fan geek, not the fan, the geeking out fan. You got to meet Mobius, the real Mobius, not the the guy sitting at the table. You just hang around at the freaking thing. He came to talk to me, and that's what we get as well.
Oh, for sure, man, for sure.
Like the fans, when they get to see us, the fact that creators all, not everybody's friends. Let's not lie, but the fact that we all have like a friendly, some of us are friends, and when we're on stream, it shows that we know each other, that we interact out of the goddamn thing, not just like we got to meet here once a year.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. It's about being genuine. Let's face it. If you're just smiling, jiggling, and doing nothing on a fucking on a stream, that's not being genuine. Being genuine, right now, you've been doing, talking about
right
everything.
Now, right now we have the perfect analogy. Like I used to compare it to, like, we're like Kirby, and like Kirby used to, everybody could just drop by or call the House of Kirby, right? Could just drop by and go visit. Yeah. So right now the perfect analogy is like, right now you have a fucking live bullpen, right? How do you call it? Yeah, bullpen. Is that how you was called?
Yeah.
And everybody's invited. Everybody has access to it.
Man.
So it's like you have a 24/7 bullpen of creators, and you have access to them, and we have access to our fans.
People take advantage of that. Most people really understand that, the boundaries, they respect those boundaries. Don't be abusive, but you have access to a lot of people who are willing to share their knowledge, work with you. It's a give and take. You got to give some, get some, be cool about it. But there's a huge resource available to all creators in CG and indie right now.
And we're international.
Each other. That's the resource. Each other.
We have Samir from Pakistan.
We do.
We have people from Japan. We have people from the entire freaking world.
Yep.
Yeah.
In the same bullpen.
Dude,
so
look,
cool.
We were having such a great time last night as well. And that's the thing, man. We were really breaking down, like, that's sort of like, these streams that you do, Rod, are amazing.
Yep.
But then when we actually do have the time to explore who a person is, and we went over an hour with Russ, really getting into the project. Liam had amazing input and great questions, but it also gave everyone great insight onto what the project is, how professional, the involvement from a few others to help guide the story a little bit here and there, or with the writing. That's cool stuff. That's things I think fans enjoy to hear. But I know you have it up there, and I saw it before too. Albino Thunderbuns is 100% correct.
Yes, I left it up because I wanted us to get into this sleep thing, which we hadn't talked about yet.
Because that is a thing that I am severely lacking, and I need to get back into a certain structure. Because some of these late nights it's been too much, man, and I need to take a step back, because I prefer, like Bristolian Dave said, I prefer going to bed a little bit earlier if I could, and getting up earlier. I feel more productive in the day as well, doing that kind of. Because doing it the way we've been doing it, it's a quick way to burn out.
Yeah, there's always a cost. Whenever you think you're doing something that might get you ahead, by burning the midnight, just burning candle at both ends, and doing that, there's always a cost. It will come back to you. In the end, it's finding that balance, that spot where you're getting the sleep you need, you're getting the physicality, you're letting you got to find that balance, or you will burn out. You will suffer.
I agree, like 100%. But me, that's what I apply to it. Is technically I see it as when you're training to go to the Olympics, right? you train, you do your thing, and then you condition to do a sprint, right? So that's pretty much what we are. But we get so much work, so much project that we forgot to take that break. Because usually you do
Right.
that big fucking like performance, then you're like a month off. You know, like even in the industry, like you'll have like one of those fucking big rush, like a few months you're working like extra hours in this, but then you're like 2 months off, right? We don't have
Yeah.
that here, and I think it's one of the things that we need to find the balance in, because we're grinders, right? So the
Yeah,
grind
yeah.
is real. So you get grinding.
Sure. It's
So
so
when-
easy to fall in that trap of like, I'm going to stay up till 3 or 4 in the morning every night. And
So,
it will grind you down, man. And
but just 2 weeks off feels amazing between projects.
Yeah.
It's stupid, but it's true. Like, you kind of need a break. Like me, when I finished like, fulfilling everything, like all the books were out for Blood Hunt, I took a 2 weeks off of just like, I was drawing anything and, you know, just having fun. I did some fan art and stuff, and it felt
Nice.
great.
I was going to do that, but then everybody
family?
wanted Through the Woods. So after I fulfilled City of Venus, I just doubled down like an idiot.
Yeah. Yeah. See, that's the thing. There's always that next thing. It's always going to be there tempting you. But
Yeah.
sometimes you just gotta put the brakes on, man. You gotta recharge. And you know, Smiling Bandito he's in
does.
that position where he's getting 4 hours. Some people maybe can function on that, but I think ultimately, it can
Not
come
for
and
long.
bite you on the ass. So
Yeah, you can't function on that for long. I'm just
Like
telling you
that.
right now.
Like
Yeah.
me right now, I finished like the last page of the Nathan Z for the first volume of Natverse, right? 2 weeks ago. I took like 2 weeks of like doing some fan art, working on some stuff in Natverse too, like the cover, some concept art writing for like 2 weeks, and now I'm getting back into a grind where I'm gonna be doing like 22 page in a month.
yeah, dude, that sounds awesome. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how you find that balance doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where I'm at now. Right now, it's like yesterday. It was kind of like my conditioning mode was like, okay, tomorrow, the first, I'm starting to do pages like regularly, trying to hit them up. So
Yeah.
yesterday, so right now I'm like working on 2 pages. I'm almost done with one.
Nice, man. Nice.
That's cool.